The Viltrox 16mm f1.8 Z-mount lens versus the Viltrox 20mm f2.8 Z-mount lens. Now both of these fast wide primes are pretty popular at the moment and they're both relatively well priced. So which one should you buy? Find out next. With these two Viltrox lenses side by side, you can see already the obvious difference. The Viltrox 20mm f2.8 is much smaller and compact in size. In terms of weight, the 16mm comes in at 550 grams and the 20mm comes in at just 173 grams. So that may actually affect your decision straight away because you might be wanting a fast wide-angle prime for something like traveling or hiking where you just want a lightweight and compact setup. Filter threads, the Viltrox 16mm f1.8 has a 77mm filter thread, whereas the 20mm f2.8 it has a 52mm filter thread. So finding filters for this 16mm may be a little bit easier because 77mm is a more common filter thread size. In terms of pricing at the time of making this video, the Viltrox 16mm f1.8 it retails for $549 US, whereas the Viltrox 20mm f2.8 it retails for just $158 US. So there is some significant difference in pricing there. So this actually may be a very important factor when it comes to choosing one of these lenses to buy. It may depend on the amount of cash you've got to spend. Minimum focus distance on the 16mm is 27 centimeters, and on the 20mm, it's just 19 centimeters. So you can get significantly closer to your subjects with this 20mm. In terms of focal length distance, here's some 4K video showing you the difference between 16mm and 20mm. As you can see, you can get that little bit more in your frame with that 16mm. So now let's talk about the sharpness out of both of these lenses. From my tests, I found hands down the Viltrox 16mm is sharp, edge to edge, even wide open at f1.8. It's an extremely impressive lens for sharpness. The 20mm f2.8 is no slouch either. It's also very good. However, I noticed wide open at f2.8, the corners were a little soft and I did get some noticeable vignetting. When it comes to focus speed, going from background to foreground subjects, both lenses shared the same results. Both were silent, accurate, and fast. Okay, so let's talk about some of the advantages this 16mm has over the 20mm. Firstly, the obvious one, you get more in your frame with compositions. This is great for those landscape, real estate, architecture, and astrophotographers when you really want as wide as you can go. Next, the 16mm has a lot going on outside the lens compared to the 20mm. You have an external LCD screen showing settings, which is awesome in low light, manual and autofocus switch, 2 FN buttons, and also an external manual aperture ring. I like having that 77mm filter thread on this 16mm. It's just a personal thing. I really like using this lens combined with my filters. As well as when it comes to the sharpness in the corners, it is significant. The sharpness difference wide open on both of these lenses, the 16mm certainly does win out. So let's flip the coin. Let's see the advantages that this 20mm has over the 16mm. Firstly, price. This is a real bang for your buck wide angle lens. It's far cheaper than the 16mm, and while it lags behind the 16mm and some of the bells and whistles, you still get a very good lens, and it's fantastic for vlogging. It's lighter in weight and more compact, making it great for gimbal work in video and for photos while out hiking or traveling when you want to keep your backpack or luggage to a minimum. So I know a lot of you that are watching this video will be considering buying one of these lenses for astrophotography. Now, I had the opportunity to go out and shoot some astro recently. I took both of these lenses. I did a comparative shot. Let's go and check out the results. Okay, so I took this shot of the Milky Way over this lake. I stayed in the same position, got the same framing, and only changed the lens so you could see the difference between 16mm and 20mm. The shot on the left was the Viltrox 16mm f1.8, and on the right is the 20mm f2.8. So this actually did surprise me a little bit. I didn't realize when you use the 20mm, how much it does crop in. It does make quite a bit of a difference when you look at the 16mm that is wider. I get much more in my frame, more of the Milky Way, more of the foreground. And as I said, I stayed in the exact same position. I mean, with the 20mm, I could have just come back a little bit to get more in the foreground, but that would have been cheating. I just wanted to do this shot deliberately, stay in the exact same position and just change lenses. Now, I don't know if you can notice, but on the 20mm, the stars actually, because you've gone in a little bit, the stars actually stand out a little bit better. They're more brighter around the Milky Way as compared to the 16mm on the left. Now let's just zoom in and have a look around the shot. Now, due to YouTube's compression ratio, I can only tell you what I'm seeing on my Mac laptop here. To me, on the 16mm, it's just got that better definition in the stars compared to the 20mm on the right. It's a tad brighter on the 16mm, and that's probably because of the wider aperture. When you look into the corners, the 20mm is just that tad bit softer on the stars, whereas the 16mm, it really is a night and day difference. They are much sharper in the corners. So this is the top right-hand corner of both of those shots, and you can see the 16mm on the left-hand side. It is much better and far more crisper on the stars. But like I said, with that 20mm, don't let this put you off for using the 20mm for astrophotography. You can certainly use it. It's just you have to keep in mind you can't go wider. You have to use your feet to go back. But with that 16mm, if I need to crop in, I can just crop in post. Whereas the 20mm, I can't crop outwards. I mean, even down the bottom of the frame, I can tell that the 16mm is sharper, even though when I did take this shot, I was getting some wind off that lake and it was blowing the weeds in the foreground. So with that all being said, and I had to pick just one of these lenses to do astrophotography with, I'd go with the 16mm F1.8 any day of the week. So in summary, do you buy the Viltrox 16mm F1.8 or the Viltrox 20mm F2.8? Well, here's my thoughts. If you can afford the 16mm, then by all means get it. It's a really amazing lens. Personally, I prefer having the wider focal length when doing landscape and astro, because if I need to get anything tighter, then I just crop in post. I love the little 20mm f2.8 also, and it will certainly get the job done for you whether you're shooting landscape or astro. And it's brilliant for traveling due to its compact size and lightweight. I guess really at the end of the day, it boils down to your budget. But for me personally, I'd be going with the 16mm f1.8. I think it's more diverse in terms of what it can do, and the sharpness in the corners, even wide open, is just awesome. Well, I hope this video has helped you out in terms of which one of these wide-angle Viltrox lenses you should buy. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, by all means, give me the thumbs up. That does help my channel to grow. Never stop creating, and I'll see you next time.